Now, if you happen to be flying to Turkey this summer, don't stand up on the plane too early, because airline passengers flying to Turkey are now going to be fined if they stand up before the seatbelt sign goes off. To explain all, travel journalist Eoghan Corry joins me now. Morning, Eoghan.
Good morning, Shane. Happy Friday.
And same to you. Now, I'm not allowed to give my opinion, but I will. I think this is a great idea, because nothing is more annoying when the plane lands and people start jumping up, getting their bags, sometimes when the plane is still taxiing.
Absolutely, and it doesn't tend to happen so much Western Europe or America, but for a large number of airports around the world, as soon as you touch down, people stand up, they start taking their bags down, and sort of that rush off the aircraft. Interestingly enough, in Turkey, then Turkey's introduced this rule. It's a fine of about €70. A directive has gone to aircraft crew, the cabin crew, to keep an eye on people for doing this. It tends to happen in different cultures. You're more likely to see it in Sabiha Gökçen Airport, which is the one on the Asian side of Istanbul, where all those flights transferring in from Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan come in, rather than on the European side, which is a brand new Istanbul, well, not brand new, it's a couple of years old now, Istanbul Airport, listeners would be familiar with. In Africa, quite a lot when I land, I would transfer through Addis Ababa. At the time, Ethiopian had a direct route. Some of the aircraft, almost everybody was standing before the aircraft came to a halt. It's sort of a cultural thing, it's sort of a thing that people get used to doing, and Turkey is probably watching what's happening on the western side and on the eastern side and saying we've got to really put a halt to this.
Yeah. And the Turkish authorities say the reason they're bringing this in because of the sheer volume of passengers complaining about it. What is the issue? Is it that the baggage could sort of hit you on the head as people are rustling for it, or is it the fact that the plane is still moving?
Plane is still moving very often, and there's danger issues. We're a very litigious nation, so things falling on people's heads end up in lawsuits in Ireland. But what tends to happen, particularly in Sabiha Gökçen, is that when you land, people say, "Oh, we're here now." Unbed and the bags are pulled down, or once you open it, everybody's familiar with that announcement. When you're opening the overhead compartment, be careful, something falls on your head, something can fall, or something become dislodged, and people have got seriously injured.
Yeah. I seem to remember, I'm trying to remember a flight home from Venice. I must actually ask Ciara Kelly, because she was on the same flight, but it was just at the kind of height of COVID that they went row by row when they let us off. Could we not go back to that, or am I imagining that?
You're not imagining, because COVID had the restriction of people were supposed to distance. Impossible in an aircraft. Some of the early flights, there was a restriction, only 20 or 30 people on board. And when in the immediate aftermath of COVID, there was this very strict disembarkation where everybody had to do it row by row and wait for a period until the next people get off, to enable distancing in the airport tunnel as you're disembarking. Getting on board, getting off again, most of the issue is safety. That's number one priority. But since the advent of low-cost aviation, Shane, a lot of the airport or the airline emphasis on this has been on speeding it up. It can be a very long, drawn-out process as everybody pulls down their bag, they walk forward, they stop, they see if their wife or their husband's okay, and people at the back, sometimes with a connection, very tight connection to make in a connecting airport, have this frustrating experience. A lot of the focus has been on how quickly can we get the aircraft unloaded and loaded again, and of course Ryanair's entire business model is based on a 25-minute turnaround. The aircraft have to work, and working means keeping them up at the sky.
All right, well, the fine is about €70. We'll see if it'll put people off. But it's not just Turkish Airlines, we should say. This is all planes flying to Turkey must now issue an in-flight announcement. You'll be told to keep your seatbelts locked and do not stand up or open your overhead lockers until the seatbelt sign is off. The big question, will other countries follow suit?
I think that it's people would be looking for. It's already illegal, by the way. It's just a question of enforcement. I think when something like this comes out in Turkey, it means that they're unhappy that it's not being enforced by cabin crew, and they've heavily publicised it. As I say, it's a cultural thing. Places that are new to flying, or the large populations new to flying, tend to, as soon as they land and stand up, behave like they're on a bus. And to be quite honest, the way aviation has evolved in the last 30 or 40 years, it's almost like a bus journey. You're actually paying more for your bus to Galway than you are from flights to Dublin at the moment.
And we should say, if you're going to Turkey, this is in effect right now. They're not bringing it in.
Absolutely.
It's in effect right now.
It came in a couple of weeks ago.
Speaking of unruly passengers, what's going on at Dublin Airport? An 80% increase in incidents of disruptive passenger behaviour.
Disruptive passenger behaviour on aircraft, really, really big issue. Yes, Dublin Airport had an unusual coalition. It's very hard to get anyone in aviation to agree. For instance, Ryanair and Aer Lingus and the unions, Forsa and IALPA, all on the same platform yesterday, saying a new scheme called Not on My Flight. The reason they're doing it is there has been a big increase in 2025. They say 80% increase in unruly passengers in Dublin Airport. People would have seen a very spectacular video about 4 weeks ago of someone taking his shirt off and kicking around the material at a gate when he was late for a Ryanair flight. Now, it comes off a very low base, I have to say that, Shane. The unruly passenger worldwide, and IATA will have their big congress in New Delhi next week. This issue will be coming up again. It's about 1/4 what it is in Ireland. You can actually get about 1,500 flights before you come across an incident which is disrupted, but it is rising. One of the things I would make my own comment on is that we've always had drink on board aircraft. We've always had excessive drink on board aircraft. People going away on holidays tended to start early, but there was a time, as Michael O'Leary said, the drunk would just fall asleep. What seems to be happening is that there's a higher incident of excessive drink being mixed with other substances.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about illegal drugs. We're talking about the vast increase in prescription drugs. It's something that Lorraine Nolan of the HPRA would be worth having on the programme about, because most of the major incidents that have turned up in the courts have been with people taking a few drinks on top of extra medication that they took before their flight. Yeah. That seems to be driving the rise in incidents. It's coming off a low base. About 1/4 of them are related to drink. About 1/4 are related to smoking, believe it or not, worldwide. Tends less to happen in Europe. And about half are to do with safety regulations and people letting the seat back in front, leading to all sorts of incidents and aggression. That's something that Ryanair got rid of years ago. I'm a big supporter of that, by the way.
That's very tense time. Yeah, it's very tense.
People get stressed when they're flying as well, Shane. They really get stressed.
Okay, and speaking of stress, Dublin Airport expecting 500,000 passengers this weekend, so allow extra time.
It's the busiest day. Friday's the busiest day, and we're going to have even busier days. The busiest day in the history of Dublin Airport was last Sunday, and we've about 8 more of those to come before it peaks end of July, beginning of August.
Eoghan Corry, leading travel journalist. Thank you.